Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Gamers Rose podcast. I'm your host, Joshua J. Alongside me, Zeal, also
Um,
known as Josh.
hey guys.
And this is our 1 year episode, which is insane to even think about. Um, Wes could not be here. He is currently doing a show, so hopefully everything goes well for him. He should be back in a few weeks, though, and we'll continue on with him as well. So, yeah, welcome in, Zeal. How you doing, man?
Wow, doing well. 1 year. Congratulations. Crazy.
Thank you. I know. It's been a long ride, but it's been fun. It's been interesting. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but at the same time, it's something that I do for the fun of it. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
so I
It's
enjoy
been
it. I
an
enjoy it
awesome
a lot.
journey. hmm
So this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Usually we do like the coffee that we like, the roast of the week, and then we talk about some video games. It's a little bit different this time. I don't have a coffee, which I know is almost like blasphemy on this show. But it's been a busy week. Just didn't get around to getting one. Um, Also, with Wes being gone, we are not doing the roast of the week, so it's a completely different. And I told you last week it's going to be completely different. The reason Josh is here is because he is going to be the DM or dungeon master for our upcoming D&D podcast that we are going to be releasing shortly. No timetable on when it's actually going to come out. We'd rather it be ready and not, pre-release something that we can't keep up with. Um, but the reason that he's on here is I'm going to have him kind of talk a little bit about it, kind of introduce some of the stuff we might be looking forward to. Hopefully, get you guys excited for it, give you a sneak preview onto what we're going to be doing, and yeah. So, where do you think you'd like to start? I have a few questions for you. We could do that, or we could just hop right into sort of a trailer for what we're gonna be doing in
It's
the campaign.
it's your show. Where would you do you want to like jump in and just do the sneak peek and then ask questions, or what do you think would be most appealing or appeasing to the audience?
Let's do the sneak peek because that might prompt more questions. So let's do that first, and then yeah, I'll probably come up with a few more based off of that.
All right, here we go. The depths of space knows no boundaries. In an age of discovery and innovation, where the technology and magic advances allow their creators to traverse the sectors in a pursuit of knowledge, adventure, and untold wealth. The worlds of the Kydernan galaxy are on the cusp of an awakening. From the seedy burrows of Rylock to the resplendent halls of Treshy Prime, a malicious blight moves through the shadows. Strings are tugged. Pawns are moved across the board, staging events soon to come. On the sails of solar vessels, avenues of commerce or warfare, hopes or despair, ruin or fortune are just around the corner for those bold enough to grasp it. The party starts on the planet known as Gumo in a beachside cabana called Remu's Retreat, licking their wounds and looking for work after being stranded on the planet for 6 months. Their ship crashed after a botched attempt to hijack a transport ship owned by the chain. There's a news bulletin interrupting the local blitzball tournament, describing the details of a wanted man of the name of Nobar Zebin, affiliated with a Javarius firm who dominate the Yuko sector. The United Coalition of Integration interrupts this match to bring you this update. Nomar Zabin snuck aboard a transport vehicle outside of Gumo. They've absconded with 3,000 Yarnan crystals worth about 15,000 credits. This is his third heist in 5 months. He's armed and extremely dangerous. If you have any information, the UCI is offering a reward for any information. And that's where the story begins.
Interesting. So You made it actually sound kind of relaxing when you said, on a beachside cabana, and then you said licking their wounds where they've been stranded for 6 months. It's like, okay, it's not as nice as I was hoping it was going to be at first.
Good times and hard times, man. But fortunately, you guys landed on a planet where it's a beautiful planet. Gumo. It's a small Earth-like planet with a tiny sun. It's a star and a frozen moon that circle the planet at rapid speeds, causing wild day and night cycles. The gravity of these planets and the orbit cause these moons and sun to cycle and rotate at odd rates and in different locations, making it incredibly difficult to leave the planet. However, when the two coincide, the tiny gas star sun melts parts of the moon, causing rain. So because of this, the entire planet is temperate, but has no yearly cycles or seasons. The city, or this planet, is the largest export of yarn and crystals and keratin, which is critical for energy production, and they're farmed from aquatic creatures that are exclusive to the planet.
So it's it's used as more like a mining. There might be some small mining colonies around,
That is correct.
but as far as living there, it doesn't sound very habitable in terms of it could be day for 20 minutes, the rest of the day is night, but then the next day could be day for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and then, only night for 20 minutes. Like it could really just change back and forth.
It's definitely got like a blend of like Hawaii, but that Alaskan feel also, where it's like weird day night cycles where it could be day for long periods of time or it could be night for long periods of time. But you get random rain cycles, you get random thunderstorms because of the odd variations of these two orbiting construct, two orbiting planets, the sun and the star. As they rotate around the planet, the push and pull of these different gravitational fields cause them to throw each other off in different alignments, but are still absorbed by the larger planet. So they never get too far away from each other. So you do get very odd cycles as they orbit this planet. And when it happens...
Oh, I was going to say, continue your thought, because this might lead into something just a little different, but it has to do with the same thing.
So it makes it incredibly difficult to leave the planet because you can never tell the trajectory of the planets unless you have advanced astrological maps or like understanding like mathematics of how the planets are going to align and coalesce and then break apart. So there are very, very detailed maps for the import ships or export ships. But also because of this, you do get wild temporal storms because of how, and rain in different parts of the planet depending on where it is. So there's very odd like weather patterns and like rapid cooling or rapid heating around the planet. So it's hard to predict what's going to occur.
Interesting. So this is a twofold question. One, how in the world did you come up with this type of a planet? And then number two, you've been a DM for a while. How long have you actually been a DM?
Let's see. How I came up with a planet like this. I wanted something like wanted something cool. I wanted something that deviated from like the normal like concept of a planet. As I began researching different planet types, and I noticed planets with different moons around them. I noticed that, frequently in a galaxy, there's some kind of star that produces energy that allows life to thrive. But I thought, what would it look like for a small star and a moon to orbit a planet? And this is what I came up with. But I also wanted it difficult for the residents of that planet and not only the inhabitants, but people attempting to, do trade with these planets to have difficulty interacting and engaging with the planet because of the orbit of these two astrological bodies.
Okay, I got you. That's really cool. Like, I guess I never would have thought of like having that type of a. I don't don't know. It's really interesting. I'm interested to see kind of what happens on that planet, or even if we stay on it too long, or how that all works. What the and maybe if I ever ask anything that you don't really want to give away yet, that's fine. But what's kind of the biggest faction known in the galaxy of where we're going to be at?
That would be an organization called the Pavetta Foundation. There are uh, 5 massive like gas stations. They're like OPEC. Like they're called Halon 3
Mm-hmm.
through 7, and they are massive floating like gas station casinos that are in different sectors of the galaxy. There is Sector 3 is managed by a gentleman named Trill, and it's a space station outside of the space station casino outside of the planet Viril in Sector 1. And Sector 2 is Holland 4. It's managed by Rickard Johansson, and it's outside of the Sequo wormhole, which is almost like a fold-in space where you could travel from one sector to another sector, which we'll get into more of that later.
Okay.
5 is managed by a individual known as Kluhomana C, and they're outside of a galactic like gaseous spray known as the torrential bloom. And think of this like almost like like the Milky Way. Like sometimes in certain areas of space you see vast areas of space where there's just like cosmic dust. This is unbeknownst to people right now, an interesting mix of both like fungi, mold, and like almost like a moss-like structure, but it's also like a gaseous material. And people are researching it and studying it, trying to figure out right now like what it can be used for.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. 6 is managed by a gentleman known as Yuzi Talk, and that is a space station known outside of the Zook zone, which is a current like battlefield. It's kind of like the no-fly zone between a couple of different factions. There are some competing organizations, federations, affiliates, coalitions that are battling over certain territories in Sector 3. So that's a quite chaotic area, but I'm not going to dig too deep into that today.
Okay. Fair enough.
The final is Halon 7, and that's in Sector 5, access X15.55, Y 8.61. And all of these have like little access points and stuff like that. So as you guys are traversing, you'll have to like navigate. So the way that this map works, instead of being on a monoplane, you have multiple layers of planes of sectors that all overlap, and you guys are going to have to traverse through the different sectors as you guys fly from planet to planet, or use wormholes or warp gates. But Sector 7 is managed by a dude named Cyril Fuller, and that space station is located outside of an asteroid penal colony known as Hogo.
Okay. Interesting.
So
I'm excited to try this out. So what so everyone else kind of knows, like, this is more of you said solar sails. We're doing more of like a pirate ship, but that's in space, correct?
That is
kind of like
correct.
Treasure Planet. That's kind of what.
That is, yes. It's going to be some mixtures of like it's going to be a lot of swashbuckling action, some minor theme punk, and a little bit of magic. It's not super advanced, but it's enough to get people back and forth without being too mecha or any of those designs. It's nothing hyper advanced, but it functions.
Now oops, sorry, go for it.
But to answer the other question, because that was a very long tangent or a long explanation, I've been DMing for about 5 years now.
Okay, nice. What kind of got you into the Dungeons and Dragons era? I mean, you've probably been playing for longer than you've been DMing.
So when I was in high school, I bought the books for 3.5. I'd always been fascinated with the idea of, fantasy after watching some of, things like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or, Firefly. It's a little bit of science fiction elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been, very deep into D&D through like playing isometric top-down games like Baldur's Gate or Fallout. So I've always loved that dice rolling system and the mechanics of it, but I was never able to find anybody to play with me because the game was so advanced until 5e. I got reintroduced to Dungeons and Dragons by stumbling upon Critical Role. I didn't know anything about it. I had just started like searching about D&D, and I found Critical Role, and I started listening to it. And I just decided to dig in and buy all of the books and start writing again.
That's awesome. So do you have a passion for storytelling? Is that kind of what drove you to be a DM?
Absolutely. Storytelling and character growth are the things that intrigue me the most about storytelling and narrative. I'm a sucker for good narrative. That's why I'm so heavily invested in different books, stories, and different authors, because you develop a kinship, you develop a relationship with these characters, and you just start developing emotions on how they respond to certain things. When people die, like, you're now emotionally invested into these stories.
Right. What if so do you have characters that you've already kind of written up for, and apologies for my camera, but have you already have some characters written up for this D&D story that you're going to be taking me and Aaron, who people on the show you should know? If you haven't seen him, you will get to him. But do you have characters that you've already created in this world, so to speak?
As previously mentioned with the description of the Howlin gas station / casinos,
Mm-hmm.
I did drop some names there. There are some
Right.
characters that I have a rough like outline and affiliation for them but like I don't really have motive. I haven't really defined who they are, what their quirks are, what their backstories are yet.
Sure. I was going to ask, because if you had, I was going to ask if you could give us a look into the life of one of these characters that we are going to get to know on our journey. But you said you haven't really done any of the roughing them out just yet?
Well, I have, but for the characters that for the characters that have been fleshed out, you will be meeting them early in the story. So as a DM, you create an outline for or concept for the story, and then so you just kind of have a framework. And as the characters, you just want to write just enough to stay ahead of the characters, of the players. And when they decide to invest into something, I start painting around and start filling in the details to what they're going to dive into next. So that way, okay, I have a concept, I have an idea, but even before then, I have a few like plot points, and I will start foreshadowing things as we play through the game. Like you saw from the introduction, there's going to be like little foreshadow. Like, so the individual, like for example, the UCI, you probably won't interact with them directly for another, 5 or 6 levels, couple of campaigns. You may or may not ever interact with Nomar Zevin. But you're starting to get a view of what is happening behind the scenes. And sorry, let me mute my phone. I have a fantasy football team, and the league is exchanging text messages right now.
Oh, no, you're all good. I actually just drafted my fantasy football team not too long ago, so actually earlier today, so
nice.
Fingers crossed.
So yeah, some organizations, fingers crossed, best of luck to you, are groups like the Chain, which are a merchant organization. They deal in logistics and transferring whatever, good or ill, across the galaxy. You have organizations like the United Coalition of Integration, which are, think of them, maybe if you've seen Star Trek or something like that, think of them like the Federation.
Okay. Yeah.
You have groups like the Pavetta Foundation, groups that are out dealing in intensive resources and maybe artifacts and gambling. They might be a large banking firm or organization. And there's some different firms and other different groups that you'll be learning about later that I want to keep under wraps for now. Because
Hey, that's fine. That's all understandable. Now, here's probably the most important question.
Okay.
What is your favorite dice, and do you have it with you?
My favorite dice. I have a set of dice that my daughter bought me for Christmas, and they are, as you can tell, I have them all like right here. I carry just a bag, and
Nice.
it is this little D20 right here. It's what my daughter bought me. And
That's awesome.
I love it. It came in a full set. It's this like really nice, like resplendent, like glittery. I don't know. I love it. It's my favorite dice set.
Nice.
But I don't have anything. I've never been. I buy them because I care more about the usefulness as opposed to like going out and buying like really nice gemstone dice. If I, eventually I might, but as for right now, I roll what I need to. If I was functioning more as a player and I could show off those dice, then yeah, I would do that. But I find myself either DMing a lot or playing online where we tend to roll digital dice.
Right. My favorite use of dice is one here. It's a D20.
Yeah, look at that.
So this is my favorite. Thank you. For usefulness, I usually get some decent crits with this one. So it's my lucky dice.
Is it weighted?
No, this one, it was going to be my favorite. My wife got this one for me for Christmas, and it came as a set. But it's a metal dice, and it actually will change color with the heat of your hand. So if it gets hot and warmed up in your hand, it'll actually turn. I have two sets. I think this one turns like a all black, and then the other one turns like completely green. Yeah, this one turns. This one will turn like all black. You can see the 17 there is getting
really dark. Yeah,
darker.
that's cool.
The only thing is it sucks to roll them. I always get below a 5 on those, like every time without fail. So I don't roll those anymore. But I use those for show.
So. Do you have a dice jail?
Not technically. I have a. This is another thing I got. My wife got me. It's like a little treasure trunk. I just set them off to one side for my jail. So if they don't do good, I set them over to the left, and the ones on the right I always play with.
I see. So how did you get involved in D&D?
So I actually got into D&D when I started looking at Cyberpunk.
Oh, okay.
So when Cyberpunk was coming out, I really wanted to play Cyberpunk, and when I found out that it was based on a dice-style RPG paper and pencil game, I was like, oh my gosh. So I went out and bought it. So I started reading through the book, reading up on it, kind of seeing what there was to do, and I printed out over 80 pieces of paper on my mother-in-law's printer. Bless her heart. She let me do it with the color ink and everything for the characters, right?
Wow.
So after I printed it all out, I gave it to my wife and gave it to my best friend. I said, okay, fill it out. Let's do this. They started filling it out. I tried walking them through it. Didn't really understand it. It went absolutely horrible. But I realized that the imagination was there for what we wanted to do. And so I didn't know how to do the dice rolls, didn't know how to do all that stuff. So I started digging into it a little bit more. Tried to do another pre-made campaign and realized that that's not what we're good at. We're actually more good at just making crap up. So
Mhm.
so I got together with a few of my friends and I said, look, I'll try to DM, for my buddy's birthday party. Let's see what happens. And it was a Star Wars campaign. And I bullcrapped the whole way of DMing that whole thing. But at the end of it,
Nice.
they had a lot of fun. So
All that matters.
after that, we went about a year without playing. And then out of nowhere, we just were like, you know what? Let's just try it again. And we really got into it where we were playing every other weekend. And it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Do
So,
you have a favorite character or NPC in your time as a DM? Something that just like really stands out to you that you just love and adore?
so there is a woman in our campaign. Her name is Margaret. And
Oh,
she is like the uh, god of our every single one of our campaigns. It
mhm.
ended up where one of the DM of the time, his name's Dominic. He was, and he's in the chat sometimes, but he was made a deal and everything. And one of my buddies was like, you know what? Is there a woman in here that I can, have some fun with after a long travels? And my friend hates doing woman voices because he's just not good at it. So he's like, you know what? Yeah, there's this beautiful woman over here. You have a nice scarlet robe. And he's like, bet. And so he walks over to her, starts to talk to her. And she goes, how you doing, sweetheart? My name's Margaret. And he's like, and he's like, and she turns around and she turns into an old hag, everything's sagging, dragging on the ground type thing. And my friend just went,
my.
screw it. And then did his thing. And
Uh-huh.
from then on, Margaret has been an insanely good assassin, has
Oh,
survived almost all of our campaigns, has been eaten by a dragon, but showed up in
okay.
another campaign, and it's always Margaret. It's not
Mhm.
a name change. It's not. She's the same character in every single campaign. She just shows up random, whether it's we attack a caravan and there's an old lady that needs help that turns out to be Margaret,
Uh-huh.
or like I said, an assassin, gets, comes over and it's Margaret. Whatever the case is, she shows up in random places and it's probably been my favorite character of all time.
That's amazing. When you have those reoccurring characters and you guys already have that familiar bond just because of the longevity over the courses of different campaigns, that feels great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Hmm. I
What about
have one.
you?
His name is Dorbar. I was running a campaign in a world that I created called Colossi, and one of my players just randomly was like, "Hey, I'm looking for an alchemist," and then I didn't have anything prepared because I wasn't prepared for it in the town. But he rolled a natural 20 on his investigation check, and I'm like, all right, here he is. Next thing you know, I have this like little like twitchy like character. He's an alchemist that likes to sample all of the plants that he finds, and he makes different alchemical concoctions. And next thing you know, they loved him. They hire him. This guy's traveling around with the party, and it was all. I was a spur of the moment thing. Just character was born right then and there, and he saved the party on multiple occasions just because he just happened to be there. He's a total coward, but like when it hits the fan, like he's there. He saved the party. Here's a couple potions. Like let's go.
That's awesome. Have you ever has he been a reoccurring character in campaigns, or was that for one of the campaigns you've done?
He's just been in one campaign so far. That campaign has been on hiatus for like 2 years.
Is he still
Uh,
alive?
he is still alive. And
Nice.
I tried to bring some other people into the world, but unfortunately, the players never pan out. Which they say the hardest thing about D&D, the biggest bane to D&D, is scheduling, and it's hard
Yes.
to find consistent characters and like cohesion amongst players. And I'm not gonna just DM for just random people that like are only going to be there for like 1 or 2 sessions. Like if I'm going to DM, because I pour a lot of time into it. With this campaign, I've already spent probably 30, 40 hours writing. just for the Starjammer campaign that we're doing. For the Colossi campaign, I've spent 2.5 years writing that.
Wow.
That's fully fleshed out. Like,
So is
you
that
want to
like
hear a little bit of it?
Yeah, is that like a world that you've created then? Like you've created a world, so anybody that would
Yeah.
want to play in that world, you can just plug and play almost?
All right. So here we go. Colossi was a world built as a battleground for war games to resolve a power struggle of the gods through multiple series of warfare. After the conflict was resolved through a world-altering cataclysmic event, the world was abandoned, leaving all the races to their own devices. Remnants of the war remained, but little of the history survived the ordeal. A level 10 ritual spell was cast, summoning a meteor that struck opposing army. A victory was declared, and the rewards given. They sent the Fae to the astral realms, the elementals to the inner planes, the demons and the devils to the abyss, and the divine beings ascended to Acheron. All of the major and minor deities left Colossi. However, some magic still remained through the Ardent Pillars. Each form of magic is channeled and distributed through their respective primary deity. When the Ardent Pillars are destroyed, the link to their patrons are severed. Only the gathering of creatures' emotional essence and energy can a new avatar be summoned. The war began with the Eternals, elementals and demons, led by Asmodeus sieging Acheron, the home of the divine, for control of the 5 realms. Asmodeus' forces devastated the realm and his purpose for absolute power. However, the divine had other ideas in mind. They created a new realm, Colossi. There, they created the races of dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans, using the Ardent Pillars to prove their superiority. This campaign takes place in the year of the death of King Aemon. His reign of 60 years ended in a peaceful death. The entirety of the kingdom in mourning after the loss of the last true hero, a hero that brought peace to the nations after years of warfare. Through months of diplomacy and patience, a treaty was signed with the Calais Empire. Aemon's vision for hope and understanding finally ended 2 generations of bloodshed and the vengeful legacy of his grandfather. Prosperity and abundance spread through the region as an era of enlightenment and stability spread through the land. The peace was not long lasting, however, as the lust for power consumed the hearts of those looking to fill the void. Corruption began slowly with back alley deals and political assassinations. Once again, the region slipped into an unstable melting pot of regimes vying for control. And was just the history of the world.
Low key, kind of want to switch campaigns. Not, just that's awesome, dude.
If you want to do it, we can. Because, like, do you want to hear the intro to where you'd be starting off?
Sure, we got a few minutes left. Let's end on that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is here the town of Eldermarsh. It is here where you begin your story. The party has been hired by the Archmaester Harduk to bring supplies to the Temple of Baragost in the town of Eldermarsh. Resources have dwindled to a dangerous low level due to the increase of bandits and the Oni, known as Hashimadara, ambushing merchants and travelers. The party left at dawn after 2 days of unhindered travel, finally reached the edge of the Ettercap swamps. As you notice the swampy forest around you, you notice a plethora of vibrant flora. Thorn-covered stalks encase narrow, reed-like stalks, topped with radiant yellow heads standing as if to strike. Upwards, heavily branched trees burdened with a dense brownish red hanging moss. The sickeningly sweet fragrance emanates from what appears to be a strange, swollen, and purple-white patchy fruit. It barely manages to mask the smell of the rotten, decaying wood and the stagnant odor of water encompassing you. Your boots sink into the muddy path. The water, dirt, and only God knows what else sucks and pulls at your feet as you struggle through the difficult marshlands. Creaks of wood and the chitter of creatures nearby echo throughout the ominous thicket of trees. And that's where I'm just going to leave it right there. Just in case we do decide to play this.
That sounds really
just in
interesting.
case you do decide to like,
right.
if you want to switch it up. But
well, hey, you know what? People, that are listening, watching later, leave a comment, send a whisper. We have a little bit of time before we actually dive into this. This whole episode was just, wanting us to get it out there, let you know we are on things, kind of a look in, behind the curtain, so to speak. So let us know what you guys kind of would rather see, more planet type space adventure, which is awesome, or more of your traditional D&D where we're moving through this world and in a time of uncertainty of King Aemon, who knows, maybe we could become king. The worlds are full of possibility on either direction. So, well, thanks, Josh. Thank you for kind of, fledging those out just a little bit and kind of explaining some of that and kind of giving us your background in D&D. I'm really excited for what the next few weeks have to hold, next few months, and where this whole Gamers Roast company, so to speak, is going to go. I do want to get away from just the same thing that we've been doing. It's a great foundation, I think, that this past year has been, but now it's time to start building on that foundation.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone else. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I know this was a little bit different. It wasn't just all about video games, but I do think D&D and video games kind of really go hand in hand with a lot of different things. Okay, it's all about meeting new people, getting to know who your friends are, as well as getting your brain to find creative outlets, so to speak. That's what got me into video games, was allowing my brain to escape into another world, and that's what D&D is as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. And for those of you watching later, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and going into your weekend. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. I hope you play lots of video games, drink lots of coffee, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.